The first category comprised industry which would be exclusively owned by the state. So industry provide employment which is more stable than the employment in the agriculture. After independence, much importance for the development of industries in public sector as well as they concentrated on private sector. Hello everybody, I'm your Divya Ma'am, Assistant Professor from Department of Commerce and Management, lecturing with Vidhyaashram Pre-University College, Mysuru, the Temple of Excellence. It's my honor and privilege to welcome you all for this chapter 2, that is Indian Economy 1950 to 1990. So in the last class, to recap, we have discussed about the goals of 5 years plan, and we have also discussed what are the sectorial reforms that we had. So in our agriculture, what was the revolution that the great leaders after independence they have brought? So in agriculture, we started green revolution, and we have also discussed about land reforms. In today's class, we'll discuss about the industry and trade. So what is the revolution? What is the changes that has happened after independence by adopting the mixed economy system? What is the changes that they have brought in the industry and trade? So during the 1950 to 1990, what is our sectorial development in the field of industry and trade? We'll also be discussing industry policy resolution with respect to industrial development. So they have developed a policy. Policy means what? Rules and regulations. So we'll also be discuss on the topic of industrial policy resolution 1956. Next, the topic is small scale industry. Why prominence is given to small scale industry, why it is important, and next is the effects of policy on industrial development and the conclusion part of this chapter. So all these are the topic that we are discussing today. Moving forward, industry and trade. First of all, the main advantage of an industry, when in a country more and more industries are set up, more and more trade is happening, there is a lot of employment generation will happen in our particular country. So that is the main advantage of industries setting up in India. So since we are most populated country in the entire world, employment is very important. So being unemployed is a major problem that we are seeing in today's world. So industry provide employment which is more stable than the employment in the agriculture. See, agriculture is seasonal based on rainfall. As we have discussed, if we are depending on the high yield variety of seeds, we need proper proportion of utilization of fertilizer, pesticides and the better irrigation facilities. Then only we'll get the high yield in a particular crop. So it is seasonal. We have lot of advantage and disadvantage, but in industry that doesn't happen. We have a stable income in industry. So as industry runs 24/7 without shutting, if the industry is shut down, the production will decline. We cannot meet the market force, that is demand and supply situation. At that time, the price level will increase, inflation will be there, and there is also the situation of deflation that the economy have to face. So in order to have a balanced economy, it is very important to concentrate on increasing the production, producing throughout the day and night, 24/7. If you all want to see the production or the manufacturing, you better visit TVS company. So wherein for 5 minutes a vehicle will be manufactured. So they will assemble and they will send for test driving. So this is the demand that we have. So what if the production stops? The production stop, there will be no supply. So when supply is not there, the price will increase because there is a lot of demand for the product. When there is no supply, that is what the current situation that we are facing today. The vegetable price, the fruits and the daily requirement, the price has gone up because there is no rainfall. So we are depending on rainfall. So due to the heat of summer that we couldn't bear, there is lot of increase in the prices. So taking this as an example, so during that period, industries was giving a better employment opportunity. It was stable than the agriculture, and it also provides modernization and overall prosperity. And for this purpose, 5-year plan plays a very important role in the industrial development. So at the time of independence, the variety of industries were very narrow. The industrial production was only limited to jute and the cotton textiles. We were only having jute and cotton industries, but later we had lot of development. So there were 2 well managed iron and steel firms, one in Jamshedpur, the other in Kolkata. So iron and steel industries started coming up in our India. So we need to expand the industry base with a variety of industries if the economy was to grow. As I have given lot of examples for you why industry is very important for the betterment of our economy. Moving forward, public and private sectors in India, in Indian industry development is very much essential. Earlier it was only emphasis was given only on the public sectors. The emphasis were also started on private sector industries as well. The scope has started. Moving forward, after independence, much importance for the development of industries in public sector as well as they concentrated on private sector. Moving forward, next they have taken a resolution. What do you all mean by resolution? Resolution means changes. Okay. What is policy? The rules and regulations is called as policy. The rules and regulation, the changes in the policy, the changes in the rules and regulation is called as industrial policy resolution that was passed in the Act 1956. So what it suggests is, so during the colonial rule, the British government, they had a lot of policies, rules and regulations on our industries and the buying and selling of goods and services and the foreign trade. So they liberalized all the trade barriers, they liberalized all the rules and regulation, and for the development of industries, they started bringing up the new policies which is in favor of our industrial development. So that is all about your industrial policy, that is resolution 1956. In accordance with the goal of the state controlling the commanding heights of the economy, the industrial policy resolution was adopted in 1956. So during the colonial period, there was a strict rules and regulations to have a proper rules and control regarding the industries, industrial policy. 1956 they adopted. So the resolution formed the basis of the second 5-year plan. So it was adopted based on second 5-year plan, which tried to build the basis of socialistic pattern to the society. This resolution classified industries into 3 categories. So this resolution classified the entire industries into 3 categories. The first category is owned by state. It is nothing but the public sector which is owned by the state. So such type of industries were categorized. The first category comprised industry which would be exclusively owned by the state. So one which was owned by the state means it's a public sector undertaking. Moving forward, the second category is the private sector, but the supplements was solely depending on the state. And the third category is entirely the private sector. So 3 categories they made: public sector undertaking, private sector undertaking, and the mixed industries which were solely taken care by the state and the private sector. So this policy was used to promote the industries. As I have told you, in the backward region, in the backward community, there was no industry set up. So new industries set up. When new companies come to our India, what happens? We can generate employment opportunity. A standard will increase. So keeping this in mind only, the industries wanted to set up. So they concentrated on the backward regions, the policy were always promoting on the village. We want to set up the more and more industries in India. Moving forward, small scale industries. In 1955, the Village and the Small Scale Industry Committee, also called as Karve Committee. Karve Committee. So it is a Village and Small Scale Industry Committee. So if we start up in a small, since we know that we doesn't have the technology, proper resources, we cannot depend on the large scale industry. We cannot import all the goods. That is where our country were very poor during that time. So we wanted to bring up industries, but in what scale? Small scale. Scale means what? Not 1, 2, 3 which you use for a geometrical purpose. Scale means production. The production that happens in a small level is called as small scale industries. So they set up the promoting the rural development, they set up small scale industries. They encourage the village people, rural people to set up the small scale industries. A small scale industry is defined with respect to the minimum investment allowed on the asset of the unit. With a minimum investment, they can start up an unit, and that industry is called as small scale industry. This limit has changed over the period of time. In 1950, a small scale industry unit was one which invested a maximum of rupees 5 lakh. So if it is 5 lakh and the minimum and the maximum 5 lakh to 1 crore, then it is considered as small scale industry. Moving forward, it is believed that small scale industries are labor intensive. So we doesn't have any machinery to produce the goods and services. All the laborers used to produce the goods. So that is labor intensive technology. They use more labor than the large scale industries and therefore generate more employment. But these industries cannot compete with a large firm. It is obvious that development of small scale industries required them to be shielded from the large scale firms. So they cannot compete with the large scale firms, but for the development and betterment of the rural people, rural development, small scale industries was very much initiated, and this also have contributed to the gross domestic product. During that period, it has contributed the lot of things to the GDP. Moving forward, for this purpose, the production of number of products was reserved for small scale industry. The criteria of reservation being the ability of these units to manufacture the goods. It depends on the goods. They were only using a produced goods, so which they can manufacture, like the candle industry, jute industries, which they can do it by hand, labor intensive, where humans can do. So that kind of industries, that kind of products were produced in small scale industries. They were also given concessions such as lower excise duty and bank loans at a lower interest rates. The government to initiate the small scale industries. Now we have SIDB. So in the upcoming classes, we'll discuss about the institution which are contributing for the economic development. SIDB, then we have NABARD. All these are the different financial institutions set up by our government, set up by the private institutions to develop the rural people, to develop our economy. So as like the banks were provided very low interest rate loans, and the excise duty was also less. Excise duty means tax rate was also very less to small scale industries. Next, we have a trade policy. Trade means buying and selling of goods and services. Rules and regulation with respect to buying and selling of goods and services, because they import lot and lot taxes when we import the goods. When we, to protect the domestic country, to protect our domestic product, it is important by our government to impose lot of tax on the exporting and importing. It is very important to look after the tax rate, to look after the trade policy. The industrial policy that was adopted was very closely related to trade policy. So it goes in a parallel way. Industry policy, they liberalized the rules and regulation with respect to industries. Public sector along with the private sectors also participated in a setting up of industries. Along with that, they also liberalized the trade policies, as well as they also restricted the other country products to our India by imposing lot of taxes. That is trade policy. In the first 7-year plan, trade was characterized by what is commonly called as an inward looking trade strategy. Technically, the strategy is called as import substitution. Substitution means what? Alternative. Rather than importing the goods, let us manufacture the goods here itself. That is called as import substitution. This policy aimed of replacing or substituting imports, as I have told you, with domestic production. For example, instead of importing vehicles made in the other foreign countries, what we can do? We can manufacture here itself. Suppose we are importing the vehicles. What we can do? We can set up an industry and encourage our Indians themselves to manufacture the vehicles, and let us motivate our people only to buy the domestic products. So this is called as the import substitution. In this policy, the government protected the domestic industry from foreign competition. How? By importing the tax rate. Protection from import took two forms: tariffs and quotas. To protect the domestic product from the domestic companies from the foreign competition, they impose tax, tariff and non-tariff barrier. Tax barrier and non-tax barrier, that is restricting the quantity. Quotas means what? Restricting the quantity. So they restrict on the quantity of importing. That is quotas. So by this policy, you can say, we can also conclude saying that our industry, small scale industry, the bringing up of trade policy, the bringing up of trade resolution that we the past act that we have taken up, so it has, the industrial sector have contributed more towards the development of our economy, creating lot of employment opportunity, and during this period that they have helped to the contribution of GDP. Effect of policy. The policies which I have told, one is the industrial resolution policy, the other is the trade policy. How it affected the industrial development. The portion of GDP contributed by industrial sector was increased in the period from 11.8% from 1950 to 51 to 24.6% in 1990 to 91. So you can see the drastic change that has happened. The stats is saying, the statistics is giving you all the drastic change. Since because of the policy, trade policy and the resolution policy that we have put into our industrial development, so we can see the changes that has happened. The rise in the industry share of GDP is an important indicator of the development. So where the country's GDP is high, it is assumed that the country is moving towards the economic development. The promotion of small scale industries also helped the people to get into the businesses. They also started more and more businesses. Finally, to conclude this chapter, the topic that we have all discussed was all about 1950 to 1990. What was the changes that we can see in our economic development? So after independence, as I have told you, our leaders, Nehru and the other committee members, they started and they thought of having a mixed economy in our state. They also introduced a planning commission was set up. So they used to give 5-year plan. Now it has been replaced by Niti Aayog. So wherein they give us the plan to allocate the resources and for the development of our economy. So what was the goals of our 5 years plan? In the last class we have discussed, it was all about the growth, modernization, self-sufficient and equity. and we have also discussed about the major drawbacks of our industry, how trade policy and the resolution changes that we can see in our industry when the policies have been adopted, and with the setup of small scale industries, how our country have been developed, how industrial sectors have contributed towards the GDP, all these topics that we have discussed. So one of the major drawbacks in the industrial sector was inefficient functioning of the public sector, as it started incurring losses leading to drain on the nation's limited resource. One of the, we have seen the failure during this period from the public industries, public sector industries which have been run by public sector. Why? Because of there was no proper resources that is available in the nation. For this purpose, we had to see the failure. So that's it, my dear students. Your second chapter in your Indian economy was all about the development during 1950 to 1990. We have successfully discussed about all the topics that were there. We have also discussed what is green revolution, the new topics, what is land reform. We have discussed about the goals of 5-year plan, and we have also discussed about industry, trade policy. All these are the important topics that we have discussed, and by this class we have successfully completed our second chapter. So keep waiting for the third chapter. So let us discuss, understand more in a better way. So smile is the biggest jewel, people. You can wear. Keep smiling. Thank you.